Miss 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay. Rap your city. Let me see the mic. Rap your city. Give me the mic. Rap your city. I got you. Rap your city. I'm gonna tell you about mine. Rap your city.
It's time for us to go live, so rep your city. I really would appreciate if y'all roll with me. Feeling this music cause it makes me wanna step. And if you don't want it to, then you lying to yourself. Cause every time we party, we gon' have fun. I don't know about you, but I'ma rep where I'm from.
Rap your city. Okay. Rap your city. Let me see the mic. Rap your city. Give me the mic. Rap your city.
Welcome to the RYC Live show this evening. My name is Artistic and I'm your host for tonight. And this is, once again, Rep Your City Fresh Fridays, our 8 p.m. episode. I just want to say thank you for everyone that tuned in earlier. We had a double feature tonight. Send a shout out to my homeboy Stacks. And now we have another legend in the backstage area that I'm going to bring out in just a moment. But before I do, just want to remind everyone to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. RYC Live is our YouTube platform. You can also follow us on Facebook as well as Instagram. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. On Facebook, we're RYC Live or Rep Your City. Or YouTube is Rep or RYC Live and RYC Live Show on Instagram. So thank you, everyone, for continually showing us love and support. We appreciate everyone. I want to send a super shout out to the entire community of Chicago hip hop and abroad around the world. We do this each and every Friday night at 8 p.m. right here on this platform. If you like the programming that you continually see by us, we ask that you please show us some love. You can send us a monetary donation to RYC Live on our Cash App. That's RYC Live for our Cash App. And the other thing that you can do that we would kindly appreciate is if you share this broadcast. Share it to a friend, share it to a family member, or a crewmate. Because tonight we are talking to a brother from back in the days, an old school B-Boy legend from the crew, the Hypnotic Rockers. Okay, we're going to talk about some B-Boy history tonight, some of the places that we partied and rocked, and some of the areas in location around Chicago that took place in terms of our history. And we're going to talk about some crews, definitely some crews from the 80s. So we're going to be talking about some classic history here tonight. Chicago is well known for dancers, fashion, and music. And we're going to be incorporating whatever we can in that regard tonight with our special guest. He goes by the name of Flexster. Okay. Also named Ricardo Hernandez, but we're going to highlight his street dancing name, Flexster. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my man, the one and only Flexster. I'm going to bring him to the front stage area.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, welcome to the show, my brother.
I feel blessed to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for coming on the show tonight, and we are so happy and honored to have you with us tonight.
Thank you. I'm just as honored.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's get right into it, man. This show is all about history and lineage, and the cool thing is this is all recorded and documented, so it's saved in our archives so that we can share it with the world. So I want to go all the way back because we talk about a lot of history here on this platform. And in fact, some people may or may not know that Soul Train started in Chicago.
Yes, sir.
And I think that Soul Train is kind of like the beginning for a lot of us when it comes to dance culture. Even though that they're and I'm not saying that it only started with Soul Train, but I'm saying for the more modern day hip hop culture in Chicago, it really kicked off with Soul Train just because when Soul Train started in the 70s, some people don't realize that it was in Chicago before it went to California. And you had groups like the Puppets that were performing on the local dance show here in Chicago, right downtown at the Chicago Board of Trade building. Okay. And, and they danced on the show, right here, like I say, before it went to California. So there were a lot of, in fact, Shabba-Doo danced on Soul Train here. And then when he moved to California, he moved and danced on the show in California. But he was dancing on Soul Train here first. So him and his sister, Fawn Quinones, they were both original Soul Train dancers back in the early 70s. Soul Train started in 1970 to be exact in Chicago. Okay, and then it moved.
Born in 70. You know what I mean?
See, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so this is what I'm saying. Soul Train started August 17th, 1970 is when it was first debuted right here in Chicago. And then the following year, it moved to California. Now, they had local shows still going on in Chicago from 70 all the way up until 76. And then they would do reruns up until 79. But so there was still local stuff going on right here in Chicago that people may or may not be aware of. But it's interesting to hear the stories because I feel like those brothers and sisters did, in terms of what they did, kind of set the pace and the foundation for us brothers to come on a little later, and that's what we're going to talk about to help people to see how we can bridge the gap. Because again, Shabba-Doo left Chicago in 1971. So he had been living in California since 1971. And that's probably why a lot of people don't even know that he's from Chicago, if in fact you wasn't of his age bracket to know that he was here during the time he was here.
What set Soul Train apart is that at approximately the same time, I believe American Bandstand was on.
Yes.
So you were either American Bandstand or you were Soul Train.
Right.
The Soul Train for the first, I think it was, you said 6 years, that was televised out of Chicago. So the things that they were showing on the screen, I see them outside or on the next block. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was from the West Side. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful thing, Soul Train. That it's a nice that we can go back and see that stuff on YouTube now.
Yes.
Because that's nothing but gems right there.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely. Just like James Brown is as much a part of the big picture of, like, when it comes to hip hop music, or at least the breaking cuts. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, for sure. For sure.
His energy's there somehow, some way.
Yes, for sure. So, there's this big thing going on right now, and we're gonna get into our history, but we celebrated 50 years of hip hop, and there's this kind of debate kind of going on, brewing right now with who were involved, who started, who were the founders or the originators of hip hop culture. There's this debate between saying, hey, was it the blacks? Was it the Hispanics? Was it both? And I just want to speak from my personal experience coming up in the 80s. We were together, and I know there's a lot of proof for that in New York. Blacks and Hispanics grew up in the projects together. Okay, so when hip hop came on the scene, they were still together. Now, they may not have been 100%, working in unison, but they grew up and did a lot of stuff together. And so I'm going
to tell you how someone like me got into it, right? For me, it was a natural evolution, because urban music came out of the heart of the Black community. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And we who were close enough, we were absorbed, culturally diffused. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the music that our neighbors listening to, we listen to just because we listening to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the beautiful thing about breakdancing is, at least in my personal life, is I was able to connect different communities with one another, because people who never knew one another, they meet each other. I wasn't the best breakdancer in the world by far. I was 12 years old when I started the Bridgeport Hypnotic Rockers, which was a faction of the West Side Hypnotic Rockers, Little Village.
Okay.
See, I met them. I put my cardboard out there. I was about 12. And I put it out there. I started breakdancing. And then these guys off Spalding and Cermak, they're the real Hypnotic Rockers, original Hypnotic Rockers. They came out and started breakdancing with me and my brother. They started taking me to the block parties over there. They used to have a block party every other block. Like, in one Saturday, there would be like 12 block parties. And I was so excited. My dad, there was a bar next door. It was condemned. He put gates on it and turned it into our clubhouse. We graffitied this place. This place was like Beat Street. It was a bar. They took out the pool, the pool table. So we had a breakdancing area that was out of this world. Some of the best battles between DTR and Floor Masters occurred right there, because they started out as battles between Freeze and Hypnotic. And eventually it was like gangs. You called your bigger brother. He brought his more experienced breakers. Me on that day, I sat on the sideline. I understand you called me a legend, and I appreciate it, because I'm still here. I'm still hip hop. But when it comes to the caliber of breakdancers in the city of Chicago, there was some bad motherfuckers out here. Like, see, everything that was in New York didn't take long to get here, because Puerto Ricans were big in New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Miami. Everything that hit, you could fly Southwest Ordinance for $49.99 back then. You know what I mean? So you would bring your style to the Humboldt Park area, then it hit the Logan Square area. Then before you know it, it's on the West Side, and then the West Side had its own flavor.
Right.
In Chicago, we got our own flavor on everything.
Right.
See, we're a little bit of the pimp. We're a little bit of the cholo. We're a little bit of the graffiti artists. We're a little bit of everything. We've been culturally diffused, and we're unique. And just because a guy discovered breakdancing in New York, don't make him any better than a guy in Chicago. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What it matters is your skill level. Can you make people applaud? You know what I'm saying? It ain't about forget what you want or what you think. Will people be entertained? You know what I mean? Will they feed my euphoria? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you break dance and you get through and blah, you're like this, and people just, it's an energy that you get from that's just undescribable.
Now, let me just say this real quick in harmony with what you just said, and I want our viewers to understand and digest this really seriously, because I don't think a lot of us from the mental and the physical and the spiritual realm understand the dynamics and the overall makeup of what hip hop really did for a lot of us and what it still continues to do for a lot of us. You got to understand that hip hop, we took something out of nothing and made it into something magnificent, right? And that's the beauty behind the culture. And yet it was involved with multiple races of people, right? So that, to me, again, you know, when you talk about this was a young movement. We were all kids when we pioneered this thing. Even the cats in New York, everybody that got into this thing, this is a youth-based hip hop movement, and yet it's an industry now in many ways, and it was created by many of us. So I just want people to understand that this thing is bigger than both you and I. It's colorblind. It's unique. It's artistic. I mean, you know, it's a lot of definitions, but more importantly, it's universal. You know, and when you say universal, we're talking to like today, hip hop is all around the world. I remember there was a time when you look at the cats in New York, it was a time that it was only happening in New York City at that time. We talk about the late 60s and the early 70s. It was really only going on in New York at that time, before it even had a term that we call hip. It wasn't even entitled hip hop, right?
I think, like, for example, up rocking, you know what I'm saying? That hit the scene kind of early.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
the pop blocking wasn't too far behind that, because you had stuff like Ed Sullivan had the Jackson 5, I believe. You know what I'm saying? They were popping on there. That was early 70s too.
Right.
But there was so much dancing going on. It's not like today where everything's the same all over the world. It's pretty bland. You know what I'm saying? Back then, when someone danced, they were performing.
Yeah.
Whether it had been breaking or the hustle, the New York hustle, you know what I'm saying? Whether it was stepping, there was a beauty to the dance, and there still is. Salsa, merengue, all that. Dance is just, you have to appreciate it to want to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a young man, my sister always told me that the guy on the wall don't get none. You know? Mm-hmm. So early you find out that if you dance, you get a lot more, especially the women like it a lot more than they do somebody on the wall.
Oh yeah. You know? I mean, I think that's hip hop, that's the essence.
It's cool. It's hip hop is a cool shit.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that I think that's the pure essence of the culture in its entirety. It's about being seen and heard. Yes. I mean, I was a graffiti writer, and the whole objective of that element was to be seen. You know, as an MC, the whole objective is to be heard.
Yes, sir.
Go back to the B-Boy, is to be seen. You know?
Someone once told me, "Don't you do that for yourself?" I go, "No, I do what I do to bring joy to others through beauty, you know, through the aesthetics of something that I created."
Yeah.
So like I'm too old to breakdance. I you know, after COVID, it was rough after that. So, but I still do display art. With theological themes, and I put it on sweatshirts or t-shirts, and then I give them to my youngsters when I meet them on the street. You know, I might give them a Bible and I'll give them a t-shirt.
Right.
You know, it's like now I'm doing hip hop, and I'm also fessing up to my obligation as a believer to spread the good news, to spread the gospel.
Oh, that's what's up.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I do. Like I got hats. These are all theological themed. This says forgive on there.
Okay.
With forgive underneath. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
This one says peace. These are $2 hats. Wow. And I'll be chilling right here in my living room. I got all my acrylics, my spray cans. I go to work on them. And if I see somebody out there here, man, it ain't nothing but $2. I could ride on a truck and get locked up and end up with a ticket that's going to cost me more than that. Or I could display it on a hat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As an outreach worker, I've evolved from breaking. People know me as Rick Dog in the Southwest side.
Okay.
I'm an activist, an anti-violence activist, and I'm an outreach worker. I was a former violence interrupter. You know what I'm saying? But I'm always hip hop because hip hop was based on creating peace among the warring tribes. Mm-hmm. If you ever hear a song by the High Fidelity 3, it's called Breakdance. And it's a chronological rap about how breakdancing came into existence and how it bettered the community at the end when people started partaking in the battles and shit. Listen to the words, they're deep as fuck. High Fidelity 3. And today, I don't listen to a lot of mainstream hip hop from the 90s on up because a lot of it, in my opinion, is not hip hop. It's violent. It's not pro-social. Mm-hmm. And hip hop was pro-social. You know what I'm saying? It was something that was done to better the lives of young people in these communities in New York, and it worked. Mm-hmm. And for 2 summers, you were performing at 3 a.m. in the middle of the street, and people would still stop, get out, and watch that shit.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I can't believe the amount of hours I would put in one day dancing, probably 14, 15.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Wrist got strong after a while. You know what I mean? Because you were always on them, you know?
For sure. Okay, now let's back up because I want to paint this picture for our audience to help get a well-rounded view for you as an artist. I want to know, like, when you go back in your neighborhood when you first got it. Now, you mentioned earlier off the record, you know, you mentioned the song Car Wash, Rolls Royce. And I know that song came out in 1976.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, the 70s were about, it was the disco era. but the 70s also helped usher in new movements such as hip hop, and house music. Chicago is known for house music. And then, of course, we had the gang culture. So let's go all the way back to the beginning, because I want to show and help people to understand what was it that inspired you to want to jump into this. Did you see other guys dancing at the time in your neighborhood, or was it on television? Was it in a book or magazine, or what was it for you?
Well, I was born into a dancing family.
Okay.
My sisters, they were presidents of their gang, so they were always on some hip shit,
Mhm.
And they would teach me the latest dances. In the 70s, they'd often go to the discos. My sister had a gay best friend, and they'd practice in the living room and battle for money.
Okay.
And so it's always been around me, And I remember back around 1976, maybe, I was chilling in my kitchen, and there was a radio station before WBMX came out. I don't exactly remember the name of it at this moment, but
Mhm.
they were jamming some Peter Brown, right? Okay. Do you want to get funky with me?
Okay.
And they mixed it into something else. It might have been a Donna Summer song or something, and I was like tripping because the song jumped from one song to the next. And I remember asking my older brother, I go, "Hey, Joe, what's with this right here? The song never ended. It just blended into the next song. Did I hear that right? And my brother told me, he goes, yeah, you know what that is? That's called mixing. He goes, there's a mixer with a thing they call a fader in the middle.
Mhm.
And when they move it to the left, it turns this song on. When they move it to the right, it turns the other song on.
Right.
So after that, I was like, oh, this is dope. You know what I'm saying? And I had bought my first boombox, cried for it. They got it for me for Christmas. You know what I'm saying? And I would stay up all night in the bedroom, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, to keep my dad sleeping and shit. I would record all the hot mixes till 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, it was a lot of high energy music. This was before house music. This is like electro,
right?
Euro. They would call them. If you went to the record store to buy them, they would be in the import section.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
AEIOU,
right?
Dominatrix, all that.
Right.
And as far as rapping is concerned, I don't remember there being much rap at that time.
Right.
Other than like Blondie, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And what happened is a lot of the breakdancing crews, they also had a rapper. That was another element. It was almost like when you battled, it was way more interesting than it is today. You would literally go to war and you had secret weapons.
Right.
Because everybody had something that they brought to the table that somebody else didn't have. One crew, Crazy Crew, they had a little boy. That guy would spin on his head for about 10 minutes in a blur. Never put his hands down. Wow. He would just keep his hands out. And when he put them in, from pulling them in, he would just get more velocity. He'd go into a blur, literally for 10 minutes. This is like 1984. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That was a dynamite weapon right there, because they could have been getting their ass whooped by another crew. And then you throw that guy out there and walk away, you win.
Right.
Who's spinning on their head in a blur for 10 minutes without touching their hands on the floor? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was propelling himself by pulling his hands in and out of his body.
Right.
Amazing.
Right.
Amazing the human body could do that. But if I had to write a memoir about breakdancing alone, it would take a book.
Yes.
And it's just when you're writing a book, it's like it takes a lot out of your life, your time. And I'm still living life. I'm still seeing shit.
Right.
And
right.
I'm still hip hop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have a lot of memories though.
Okay. So now I want to go back to where you was talking about the two variations of crews. Like you mentioned the Hypnotic Rockers, but you said it was two versions of them.
Yes. Okay. I met these guys, right? There was a guy called Jesse. He was the main guy for the Hypnotic Rockers. A guy, Worm, Salsky, Papo. They lived on 23rd in Spalding, and I stayed over my dad's house. Here I meet some new friends. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. These new friends, they welcomed me in. They took me to all their parties. I had such a good time that I knew when I went to back to my mom's house Monday through Friday, I wanted to replicate it. So I took the Hypnotic Rockers name and went over there, and I started Bridgeport Hypnotic Rockers.
Okay.
It was also a North Lawndale faction of the Hypnotic Rockers too.
Okay.
And they were poppers, like all three of them were poppers. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So like if there was ever a situation where we ran into some poppers that were heavy on some popping, they were our super weapon.
Okay.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like the Super Friends. It was some cool ass shit back then. You know what I mean? You took battling serious.
Right.
And you prepared. Sometimes you would do a certain move you would only do when you're battling. Because you didn't want someone to bite it. People are biting all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how people learned, you know.
Right.
So, you know, when you show it once, they say, ooh, and then you don't do it no more. You know? But
and so who were you all cool with? You mentioned earlier too off the record about how you all were cool with groups like DTR and
you know, okay,
Freeze.
Like Freeze was real cool with DTR.
Okay.
You know, they were a very organized breakdancing crew. They had they had a manager, which was the mom of the main guy, and they were on Bozo's show. They were everything. They had nice uniforms, man. You know, they used to wear those Bogart like the parachute pants, but not the zipper tight ones. They would wear them ones that had like a bunch of pleats, like 50 pleats all the way around, and they zipped up tight at the bottom. It was more of a West Coast fashion hip hop style hip hop, but you were able to buy them around 63rd and Halstead back then. They had Korean stores. And if you had them and you were on some popping shit, them pants would just make it look so much better.
Right.
Didn't have them, you know what I mean? So they were good, and they in Hypnotic, they used to battle. I don't know for what. I got there. I got to spectate some of them. Some even almost ended up in fights. It was serious. It was serious shit. But thank God it never got to that. But eventually they brought DTR and they brought the Floor Masters and they went into the Body Rock Club, as they called it, and they battled it out, and the floors would buckle. There was a lot of people there. And some of the best breakdancers were in there. And I was telling some of the guys I knew, like, hey, get in there and help them out. You have a unique dance move, or, you know, and a lot of people were real shy. It's like they got scared. There was a lot of high level breakers there that if you didn't feel like you were one of them, you just didn't get out there.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
But
interesting. That's interesting. So where were some of the spots that y'all used to dance at, and what were some of the clubs that y'all used to go to? I know you mentioned some before we came on live.
When I broke off and went to the Bridgeport Hypnotic Rockers, I learned something from Freeze. It's good to have a manager. So we picked up a manager too.
Okay.
And she was a fantastic lady. Used to let us use her house and shit and hang out, you know. And she had this big ass car with no air conditioning, no heater in the winter. But there'd be like 8 of us all going to perform, you know, at like a club on 26th Street, Casino Tropical. During their DJ halftime, we'd get in there, you know. And sometimes we go to the TV station from the Palomo TV station, and it was cool because eventually we met other crews there, and we would break dance against them, right? And then we would see they have a dude that just does some spectacular shit, right? We would tell him, hey, you just want to go to a party tonight? Yeah. All right, come with us. Boom. Now, this guy's from Logan Square or whatever, right? We would use him up against some Windy City Breakers or something.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I was more of I networked. I wasn't, what I did is I went from the West Side Hypnotic Rockers to Bridgeport. Bridgeport was lame at the time. It was mostly white.
Okay.
But there was a pocket of Latinos on 2 ends.
Okay.
And I gathered the best breakdancers from there, from the projects. They were Puerto Rican. And I told them, let's get together. Let's become Hypnotic Rockers. And eventually we were sponsored by the Metropolitan Furniture Company, Metropolitan Moving Company.
Nice.
And they bought us Puma suits, you know what I'm saying, with gym shoes and everything. Now we're all looking the same. It was pretty nice, you know what I mean? And I had a great time with them. With that group, I traveled a lot into Chinatown, into Pilsen, into Sherman Park.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Cabrini Green, because they're east.
Right.
So with those guys, I got to know a lot of that part. And with the Hypnotic Rockers on the west side, I got to know a lot of like Cicero, Cicero, even in Madison. We would go all the way to Cicero and Madison. You know, we'd break dance at parties. And I got to see like steppers contests with real pimps, you know what I'm saying? And they're
Okay.
ladies, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about dancing with a cobra stick, all green gaiters, and sliding across the floors. Dance was everywhere. You know what I'm saying? We had to break after they got through stepping. It was the grown-ups first, you know what I mean? I'm talking like it must have been like Cicero and Madison.
Okay.
1:30 in the morning. We were over there, nothing to worry about. We were break dancers, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We were deep gonna go back home on the bus, and we got there. We're performing. People are happy to see you. It was a delightful time in the city of Chicago. It really was.
Okay, tell us a little bit more in detail about this place on 26th Street called Studio Mexico Disco.
Okay, like I didn't get a chance to go there personally.
Okay.
But it was well known in the community that they had breakdancing instruction there.
Okay.
It's a rough area, so not everybody goes there if you're not from there.
Right.
It was right on 26th Street, you know, and it was a place where they supposedly they were bringing guys from New York, floor masters from New York, and they were teaching lessons there. And quickly, the word floor master, I guess, they became floor masters. The students that were there in that particular, you know, boys club or whatever it might have been, social center at the time, and they had one other group on it, 19th and Levitt. And then I heard they had a north side faction of the floor masters as well, somewhere in Humboldt Park. And I think they used to break dance at a place called Janelle's very often.
Okay.
My sister would often talk about it. I wasn't old enough to go to those places.
Right.
I went to exciting street parties, you know what I'm saying, where real creativity was nourished, you know what I mean? Because it ain't really with the old folks. Ain't never been with the old folks, you know?
Okay. So where were you dancing at specifically when you were with the guys from Bridgeport?
In Bridgeport, we spent a lot of time in that youth center. Curly Cohen, 32nd and Morgan, he had a youth center.
Okay.
And we would go to my house a lot. We would break dance outside so long as it wasn't so cold.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like 40. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because it kept you warm anyway.
Okay.
With them, it was very intense in the summer because they had block parties and carnivals that were predominantly white. Italian, Irish, Lithuanian. And a lot of those people weren't very fond of us prior to breakdancing. We would get there. I remember having a little nephew called Jesse. I was like, man, I'm not taking him. And he's like, yeah, come on, I want to go. You know, and I'm like, I'm not taking you. So I take off to the carnival. People start breakdancing up on the stage. My little nephew goes up there. He's like 8. And he's good. But I never thought about bringing him with me. He was up there clowning, you know what I'm saying? And before you know it, we cuffed him. We became very popular amongst the Italians over there. All the girls, they started visiting our neighborhood. And eventually their fathers told them they can't go no more. They jumped out, and Lincolns grabbed them by the ear, dragged them away. They never came back. But it was an awesome experience because they were enthralled. They were like shocked by us. They really were entertained. You know, they did their best to make friends with you. And, you know, going through their neighborhood was one thing. I mean, we got chased one time. They tore up our linoleum, but it was mostly because out of jealousy, because their women really were infatuated with breakdancing as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we also went to Chinatown a lot. That was right next door.
Okay.
Chinatown was right next to what was a very large Italian community. And their breakers, they had no rhythm, but they were extraordinary acrobats. That shit on Samurai Sunday, that was for real. Them motherfuckers were badass. You know what I'm saying? They had the leader of their breakdancing crew was called Crazy. Crazy from the Chinatown Breakers.
Wow.
That dude used to, he sat down, crossed his legs like they do in Hinduism, stuck his fist in the middle of his legs and spun around.
Wow.
I've never seen that shit. You know, there was just things they would do that I was just like, that shit right there is new.
Right.
You know, like they didn't have much of the pop locking at all. As a matter of fact, when they danced, it was funny. We would start laughing, you know what I mean? You know, but when it came down to them flipping off a wall, we were like, wow, we were impressed. We walked up in there, me and my guy, we walked up in there, and they were doing martial art practice, in a big ass gym on 23rd Street between 23rd and like Parn. It's the two major little streets right there in Chinatown. And we went up to this boys club that's still there. It's got lions in the front. We went to the second floor, and I'm sitting down, and I'm just peeking in, like, what are they doing? You know what I mean? Eventually, a man comes out. He goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm a break dancer. We just came here to watch. We see you guys are flipping around. That shit's cool." He goes, somehow, some way, they ended up demonstrating what they knew to us, and we demonstrated what we knew to them.
Nice.
When we left it at that, we really didn't see them no more, unless we were battling. We used to battle some dudes off 27th and Normal. I forgot what their names were, but they used to always drag the Chinatown Breakers into it, and they would drag some crew from the low end, from the projects right there.
Okay.
So we would eventually bring people from Little Village. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It was an all-out war. It was like a world war. You know what I mean? Where you would use people with talent, and you would bring them into your community, and they'd be like, "Man, look at this guy that's with Rick. He's badass." You know what I mean?
Right.
Nobody would know the guy. I gave a kid it all started me inviting him to my house after meeting him at a studio downtown.
Okay. Did you all participate in the 1984 citywide event that was sponsored by Saxon Paint Company?
Is that the one at the Aragon Ballroom?
Well, it was actually the main event was downtown at the Daily Center.
Well, believe me, back then, whoever was involved, they probably were good as fuck, right? And there were probably a lot of people excluded from the battle because you only have so much time. I could imagine there were some bad motherfuckers, but I myself didn't. There were too many parties to actually keep up with an event like that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? There was events going on all over the city. It was a craze.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
no, I don't remember that one other than the one they had at the Aragon Ballroom. It was Chicago versus New York.
Okay, tell us about that. What you remember?
It didn't last but a few minutes because some chairs started getting thrown for some gang shit. I guess you know how you do that B-boy shit? Somebody didn't like somebody the way they stood or threw their hands up, and someone threw a chair and it was over. Ruined it. You know what I'm saying? We would have watched the spectacular battle because at that time Chicago was at the top of its game and New York was too. But honestly, they were neck and neck. They would have that battle. The outcome of that battle would have been interesting.
Wow.
What if we would have won? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What
about the Fresh Fest? Do you remember the Fresh Fest? Like 84, 85?
By 1985, I had really the B-boy music, hip hop. In Chicago, at least, it almost went invisible.
Yeah,
it's like I went from being a hypnotic rocker, right, having all this tension, and then I had two options. I could either continue going into high school as a graffiti writer, or as a gang member. And eventually the gang that I started, I also started a gang back then. It was Morgan Street Boys.
Okay.
I got into that, and it went in a whole different direction.
Okay, so what would you say is the time mark for you when you were dancing? From what year to what year with the crew?
I'd say with the crew it was 83 and 84.
Okay.
By 85, house music came in. People became house dogs.
Right.
Like I went to Tilden High School, Juarez High School, Kelly High School. I used to get kicked out of a lot of high schools. Holy Trinity.
Okay.
So I was up north even, and like Tilden High School, they had house dogs. People would go out there and they would do these choreographed dances with the combat boots. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
it was dope as fuck.
Right.
And then in 85, you had songs like House Train. You know what I'm saying? Music is the key. House music it took over where hip hop was, and things got real dangerous. Everybody got into gangs. All the crews that I knew, the party people, a lot of them became or Magnetic Crew became Party People. DTR, a few of them became another gang. You know, they all the Floor Masters, Street. There was another. Let me see who. Street Masters, Crazy Crew, Windy City Crew. These were big crews, and a lot of them ended up. You would hear of guys that were really good. They turned gang member, and then a year and a half later, they're dead.
Okay,
You know?
let me ask you this: did you see the movie that came out in 1984 called Beach Street?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what you remember, because obviously 1984 was huge for breaking. So because now it was on the big screen. So what was it like? What was happening for you and your crew in that year when that movie came out?
You know, that movie, it was like it was the movie for breakdancing. You know what I'm saying? It was the movie probably for hip hop. And at the time I was an 8th grader, and breaking was very romanticized. It was a beautiful winter, 83, 84. You know, your breakdancing, New Edition was around. You know what I'm saying? Good colognes, polo sport. You know what I'm saying? It was just a great time to be alive. And you know, I'm sorry. Ask me that question again.
So 1984, to be exact, June of 1984 is when the movie came out.
Okay.
Okay. And so my question is, what was it like for you and your crew during that time? Because like I remember I went to the movies. My mom took me to the movies to see that movie. And then I remember hearing some of my friends, I went to the Evergreen Plaza on the South Side, but some of the cats, the friends of mine, went to the theater when we used to have the theater downtown.
Yeah.
Some people went to the Chicago theater and some of the other theaters downtown to see the movie. And they was describing how it was battles outside of the theater and inside of the theater and all type of stuff. So I'm asking, like, what did the movie do for you during that time when it came out in your crew?
You know, if there was one person, I think we found one guy in the community that had a VHS. And it might have been a beta, but we watched that battle over and over and over and over. We would not watch the whole movie.
Oh, okay.
We would watch the highlights, a little bit of what maybe the battle in the abandoned building.
Right.
You know, the intro where they're at the Roxy. And then eventually, of course, the main battle. But there's a lot of performers in there, even rappers, or Latin freestyle singers that are in that movie that people just missed.
Yeah.
You know,
Martin Cruz says he said he went to the Romova. What's that?
Ramova Theater.
Ramova. Okay, Ramova when that movie came out, and then he says we were breaking in the aisles.
Brother Marty Cruz is I spent a lot of time going from one neighborhood to the next with him. He knows everybody.
Okay.
To this day, he's a DJ, so he knows a lot of people. And he welcomed me to there used to be a Mexican community around 27th and Normal. And they had a lot of DJs. They were caught between the Chinese and the Italians there, so their street culture was a bit different.
Okay.
It wasn't a typical Mexican neighborhood, but like in every neighborhood, you have good dancers. And he happened to be a pretty good dancer. His cousin's name's Pops. His name's Renee. And I believe I really would have loved to have seen him battle David from Freeze, because I think to this day they both can snap.
Yeah.
Both of them. You know, they still have the physique for it and everything. I would like to see them battle one day. That would be some badass shit right there. You know what I mean?
That's what's up.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe we can get them to do that on here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I just recall back how there were just so many crews, like you said, and plus we were all young, but there were so many crews that came out during those days. And the fact that we didn't have the internet or cell phones, we didn't document a lot of that stuff as it was happening, but we remembered it. You know, I remember we used to go to Rush Street and dance on Rush Street, and we used to also go to Michigan Avenue. And, once you got to dancing, you would automatically form a circle, with the people walking, just standing by watching. And then it got to the point to where people would give us money. And, I just remember, though, like you say, it was, can you entertain? You know, people love to be entertained.
For me, like that area around Spalding and Cermak, that 23rd and Spalding area, it has a rich musical hip hop connection or history in that little community right there.
Okay.
Back in 83, even 82, 81, I remember a guy called Kike and Melvin, they would throw block parties there.
Okay.
And they'd bring their DJ equipment out there and they would snap, you know what I'm saying? And it's I think the level of breakdancing back in the days, it was at a higher level in some of the roughest neighborhoods there in the city of Chicago. You know, the ghetto brought the fantastic out of you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it produced something called breaking that eventually made it everywhere. You were going to the suburbs. It was weird because like I'd even get paid to go to like these rich houses out in Darien, Illinois, and I would tutor young kids at breakdancing. You know what I'm saying? I was their age, actually. I'm looking at them like young kids. We were the same age, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But eventually I would end up there for the sandwiches in the swimming pool. I was a little kid myself. I never seen no shit like that. You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah.
The father, he was a real estate guy, and they had money. So, you know, I'd go there, they record me on their camera. I get to watch myself breakdance. Sometimes they'd let me go home with bags of fireworks. You know what I'm saying? But breaking is I don't remember one boring day.
Okay.
And that's a bad thing. I'm an adrenaline junkie now because of how much adrenaline built up at such an early age. You know what I mean? I've always seeked excitement, and even in my careers, you know?
Okay. Now, what would you say was your specialty moves? What did you specialize in as a breaker?
Like I said, I was average. What I specialized in is seeing the talents in other people, and then drafting them into my crew.
Okay. How many members did you all have in the crew?
Let me see. We had Renee. We had Mr. Cruz.
Okay.
We had Pablo. We had Jose Morales. We had Memo. We had my little nephew Jesse.
Okay.
We had Steve Torres. We had a few associates too that would hang out with us, and they were all about hip hop, but they were mostly relatives and stuff that would travel with us, you know.
Okay.
That was the Bridgeport faction. The Little Village faction, initially, Papo, Slick, Worm, Jesse Spade, but then eventually they started recruiting other guys that were really, really good. And they would take over as like club, almost like leaders or representatives.
Okay.
Because they were that good. Some guy, Martin, I think his name was, Ralphie was Freeze. He went over to Hypnotic. He became like the best. He would take on whole crews and fuck them up. You know what I'm saying? He's still in that area. You know, that I got to only see the West Side faction of Hypnotic, like I said, during that battle against Freeze and the Floor Masters.
Okay.
Because I believe they were brought to that battle. You know what I mean? It was just so many people battling that day. I don't remember exactly, and it was a long time ago.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. No problem. No problem. Yeah, I mean, you know, like you say, we're talking like, we're talking like 40 years ago, basically.
Yes, sir.
You know,
but it was so exciting. I could feel it and I could remember it.
Yeah. And that's the point. That's
my adrenaline's already up. I got a big ass. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and it's just from memory. I feel like someone just put some cables on me right now. You know what I mean? You know?
That's what usually happens when you go back in time to talk about things that you really enjoyed. You know, it does kind of give you a boost. You know,
you imagine being on dopamine for two summers, because when you work out, you generate that feel good chemicals. Now you're breakdancing 12, 14 hours, maybe longer a day. Some of us just go home to sleep, wake up, you have another block party to go to.
Right.
Someone's birthday party to perform at. You know what I'm saying? I remember getting stuck in Cicero, Illinois, performing at a birthday party, and we didn't bring no boombox, and the only record they had was "I'll Tumble for You."
I remember that. Shout out to our homeboy Menez checking in from the BTB crew.
That's Sal, brother Sal.
Yeah, man. So that's cool, man.
Yeah, but they're, you know, the guys from Little Village, they eventually became BTB.
Okay.
And I used to go over there, and they'd be graffitiing in a basement. They try to stay away from the gang shit, so they would go confine themselves in places, cool little spots like basements that were cool in the summer, and they would graffiti. And I'd go over there, and I would try to. They would tutor me through a lot of different techniques.
Okay.
But I could never really get wild style though, because in my opinion, when you're writing, the whole art of writing is to enhance, to communicate. You know, that's why we write, that's why we print. And it's very difficult for my mind to be able to write something that I'm unable to project.
Okay.
So always had there's a blockage in my mind where wild style's really it's been very difficult for me. And just recently they you know, I got some advice from Dark Riddle. He's like, you know what? You don't use real thick letters. Use thinner letters. And I never thought about that. My letters are always bold and thick.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Like, you know, so I guess I'm going to try something new. And I'm going to see how it works. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The Dark Riddle's another one. He's been with, he's with BTB. And he was with Hypnotic. And, man, I had a fantastic time on the West Side. I love those guys. They don't know how much. I don't see them often anymore. I run into them online and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes when I go to the West Side, I'll run into them.
Right.
And it's just, you can look back at all the people who brought so much happiness into your life, and you really appreciate them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I you know, I can't even. I wish every young person in the world today had the opportunity to have so much fun in just like 2 years, 3 years, you know. Actually, like dancing was popular throughout the 70s, early 80s. It just blew up. After that, prior to breaking, you had people blowing up disco records at White Sox Park. There was a real divide between those who listened to disco or urban music and those who listened to rock and roll, heavy metal, Led Zeppelin, you know, Pink Floyd, you know what I mean? And in many cases, it was racially divided. What breaking did, it brought interest to this side of the and before you knew it, it was a multicultural activity. And now after that, you had house music in their neighborhood.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now they have DJs, and you know, it is what it is, man. It's a good thing, and it brought good things to life.
So let me ask you, coming more current, you know, this year, to be exact, in August, breaking is going to be in the Olympics. How do you feel about that? What's your opinion?
Oh man, I think it's great. How you're going to judge it, that's a whole other question.
Okay.
Because breaking is a lot more than just acrobatics. There's showmanship,
right?
Rhythm. You know what I'm saying? You know, so it's going to be interesting because you know, all these countries from all over the world, they're going to bring their flavor to the dance floor. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know,
right.
A lot. It's probably as entertaining as it is to watch those guys that be coming out on the Jabberwockies. Those dudes are entertaining.
Yes.
I ain't never seen a Jabberwocky performance I didn't like.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So yeah, it's probably gonna be on that level, I imagine. I can't wait, you know.
So I forgot to ask you, how did you come up with your name Flexster? Where did you get that from?
See, I'm not flexible. They originally used to call me Chili.
Okay.
Chili, like, you know, like Chili Willy, like Chili, you know. And then if you call yourself Flexster because somehow magically you think you're just gonna be flexible.
Right.
You know what I mean? I used to do this helicopter, and one leg would bend and the other one was straight.
Okay.
And then when I finally straightened that motherfucker out, I blew a hamstring.
Oh wow.
Right when I got the best helicopter, blurry as I could get it, I blew something, and you know, I was injured for the ending of 1984.
Okay.
Probably 6 months after that, people just weren't breakdancing no more at that level. I think a lot of the hip hop came back, at least the graffiti and some of the breaking came back in the 90s again. At least on the Southwest side, I believe it came as a result of like the Orange Line being up.
Okay.
People started graphing around the sides, you know, show their pieces and stuff. And, you know, you have people in like McKinley Park is probably a mecca for graffiti art on the southwest side of Chicago. I'd say if I think graffiti artists, I would have to think, McKinley Park area.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
and in West Side, I would think BTB.
Okay.
You know, and I've met people from like Air Crew and all that, and it's pretty cool. You can't underestimate tagging crews. They'll kick your ass too. They're nice to know too. Depending on where you go.
Yeah. No, Chicago is definitely, it's just uncharted. It's uncharted with what we can do, and you got to come down and check us out at the Chicago Hip Hop Heritage Museum.
I ain't been there, but I should.
Yeah.
I really should.
You got to come down and check us out. We're on the south side over in Bronzeville.
Okay.
So, and in fact, it's the same community from which Don Cornelius was from, the guy who started Soul Train.
Oh, that's my guy right there.
Yeah.
God bless him. God, rest in peace.
Yes,
he sure brought us a lot of happiness, man.
Yeah.
You seen the one where he was dancing?
Yeah.
Woo,
when he came down the line.
Oh, he was snapping. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite. I've been looking for the episode with Walter Payton.
Okay.
There's an episode where they interview him. They're like, "What college you from?" And he starts up rocking and shit. I believe I seen it once or twice, and I just can't find it no more. So
okay.
That's a good one. You look into that one too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They have so many episodes. I would love. Yeah. I understand that they have it to where you can purchase all the episodes offline somewhere, but I haven't done that yet. So I'm gonna look into that, because that would be cool to be able to watch the episodes, all the episodes that they have.
You won't find like, for example, like BT Express, Peace Pipe. You'll see it on Soul Train. You ain't gonna find it on any other medium at that time. No one saved any video, and BT Express is a fascinating crew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Peace Pipe and shit. They had real instruments.
Right. Right.
But that goes with music. I think music has really the fact that it's so accessible now, and there's very little creativity in it now. I encourage people to just go independent and do their own music and use their own mediums. I still, to this day, I keep up with a lot of rappers. A lot of them are into drill, or and I don't always promote a lot of that stuff because it's gang related and shit, But they'll show me, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I'll look through it. To me, it takes a lot for someone for talent to catch my eye, because I've seen so much talent. When I was incarcerated, I was in prison, right? Later on in life, I used to throw talent contests on Christmas Eve, because what else you gonna do? I would put 2 cartons of squares together, and I'll be like, after dinner, we're gonna have a talent contest. Guys would go up to the upper level, and they would dance with broomsticks. They would pop lock. You know what I'm saying? I was still breakdancing when I was in the joint. I would the day room, as they call it.
Right.
I would just be doing helicopters and shit in there, and people, hey, you're in prison. The guards would eventually be like, hey, get your asses up off the floor. You know what I mean? But you did it. I would just be like, damn, I could still do that shit. You know what I mean? But you're never gonna die, man. I would encourage people to do it as long as they could. I've seen 56-year-old guys snapping,
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely an art form that is not going anywhere anytime soon. They used to talk about even back then that it was a fad and that it was going to die off. Now it did kind of like take a lot of people stopped, but if you were still connected to the underground. In Chicago, we were kind of known for keeping breaking alive, in Chicago. Even when a lot of the cats in New York had stopped, we were still doing it here in Chicago, and so, and I mean, it was constant crews developing, I don't know. Have you ever heard of a crew called the Brickheads?
Yeah. They used to break off of 65th and Kedzie at the Hip Hop University. I worked there for a summer as a mentor once.
Okay.
Yeah, probably around 2010, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they're badass. They have one guy in particular. Man, I forgot his name, but yeah, they are very advanced.
Yeah. In fact, one of the guys from the group, his name was Eddie. He used to go by the name of he used to go by the name of Popcorn.
Okay.
And he was actually one of the original members of the early crew in the 80s called Awesome. And they were connected with TNT, which was cats from Indiana.
Okay.
So yeah, man, like you say, and then he just created a whole new generation of dancers, which they call themselves the Brickheads.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
I've met a few of them.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of good breakers, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, they're at their top level.
Yeah.
I was proud to see them practice, and I mean to know that they've continued the trend.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I know when breaking went out in 1985, as I in Chicago, they weren't doing it. You know, anybody really wasn't doing it. Like if you started breakdancing in a party in 1985, they would probably laugh at you and be like, "Come on, man, it's shit." You know, that's like, you know, it's outdated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was a lot of that going on. It was a lot.
But I would hear that the New York City breakers were in France doing big things.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I would often think to myself, "Hey, they're in another country bringing that shit over there. I can't wait to see what they're going to be like in 10, 15 years." And then 10, 15 years came, and you see these German kids and these French kids, and they're bad in a motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now it's back around again where acrobatic dancing ain't never going to be out, because as long as there's dance battles, somebody's going to bring you some shit, want to battle you and bust out a goofy ass or a simplistic dance move, and you get down there and you do tracks or some shit or a 1990, you beat them. You shut them down. You're on your hands spinning 20 times with one hand on the floor and your feet way in the air. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are things people are going to dance. I think, you know, right now you got a lot of dance battling going on right now between people who know how to do footwork in Chicago and that new dance style that's in Detroit. You know, very similar,
right?
But dance is dance.
Right.
The more you add to your shit, backflips don't ever hurt.
Right.
You know.
No, I think don't ever hurt. I think, like I said, the dance is not going anywhere. I mean, they do what's called all styles now.
Okay, yeah.
And all styles refers to all styles of dance.
Yes, sir.
So you can go from robotic dancing to locking to popping to breaking, like you say, acrobatic moves. You know, you can do a combination. One of my favorite dancers from the New York City Breakers was Flexster.
Okay.
And Flexster was well known for combinations. You know, he could do combinations. He could do, like, you know, he would go down, do some footwork, go into some swipes, go into a windmill, then go into a head spin, and then go into a freeze. You know,
I believe my favorite guy was a guy called Flip Rock.
Yeah, I like Flip Rock too.
Because he was like flipping all over, his feet were moving all over. And although he was a really big guy, his feet were close to his body all the time.
Yeah, he was smooth.
He wasn't spinning like a top. He was rolling and flipping and backing. And I knew as a breakdancer how much strength and agility and power is needed to do what he did.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot, takes a lot out of you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he was my favorite.
Okay, yeah, I like the Flip Rock too. All of them had they specialties.
Yeah.
And you know, they were good at what they did, and they were known. They were internationally known. They really were the ones. Them and Rocksteady really was the ones that put breaking on the map internationally.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. So, you know, but
when I saw Breaking, like the movie Breaking, you can easily tell that that's a West Coast creation right there. For the most part.
Oh, yeah.
That goes for the dress and everything. Bandanas around the head with, you know, that's all West Coast.
Right.
And, you know, as for me, I felt a little more East Coast when it came to my following of hip hop, you know?
Yeah.
I felt like they were even later than, say, us, for example. You know, but they created hip hop in their own version of it, in a sense.
You got
the bandanas around the feet and the Chuck Taylors and the studded vests and all that shit. I believe, you know, the samurai bandana that
Yeah,
they, you know, with the
I
big
remember
red
that.
sun, that
Yeah.
was and spikes around the wrist. That was definitely West Coast.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
East Coast, it was more like ski suits and straight leg corduroys and,
Right.
and suede shoes and fat laces and gazelles and Kangos and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sweatpants
Yeah.
and furry jackets and army jackets and nameplates and you know what
Yep.
I'm saying?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
It,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was just a whole different demo. I just seen,
Yeah. No,
I
you're
felt
right.
like New York, in my opinion, I always felt New York was more authentic because they are the creators, but there should be no hate.
Yeah,
When,
for sure.
appreciation, to mimic something is the highest form of appreciation.
Right. Right.
And I thank my Puerto Rican brothers and my black brothers in New York who decided to stop the violence, turned it into elements.
Yeah.
We got to appreciate it, and we will to this day because it's still something very special. People just got to try it. You know what I'm saying?
Now, Flex, what's your nationality?
I'm Mexican.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
My
what's up.
parents are from Monterrey, Nuevo León, and Tampico, Tamaulipas.
Okay.
They arrived around 67. We were pretty much one of the first waves of Mexicans that started coming. There were probably others in the 1930s and 40s, but the wave really started right around the time I came around.
Okay.
My parents are illegal immigrants. We I was born in Little Village.
Okay.
And we lived right at the end of our block. We were the last house on the block, and then you had the Viaduct, and then you had the West Side.
Oh.
So growing up listening to music, people were out washing their Cadillacs on Saturdays. They were playing Marvin Gaye. They were playing, Teddy Pendergrass. I was hearing that shit. You know what I mean? When they would clean house and they would listen to the James Brown music, it would travel through their window to my window.
Okay.
And I was up there doing some James Brown shit too. You know what I'm saying? It's cultural diffusion.
Okay.
And because I've been blessed with this exposure, I was able to go into areas where the funk wasn't so much there.
Yeah.
And I was special in them areas. People were like, where'd this motherfucker come from? I'm from the West Side. You know what I'm saying? And, I would go and I'd be looking for what kind of dancers do you have? What kind of performing are you doing? Marty Cruz was one. I traveled a lot with him. We were little kids. Nobody was watching us because we were everywhere.
Right.
He got to see the battles between the Floor Masters and DTR that I'm talking to you about because I made sure I brought my friends there. I was like, you guys are going to see some shit today on the West Side that you'll probably never see in your life. Come on. And we took that Hosted bus to Cermak and Cermak all the way west. We jumped out and there was the Body Rock Club. You walked in, it was a big ass door with a gate. The bar was eliminated. The walls were graffitied. I think the graffiti guy from Floor Masters, I forgot his name, but he was Sal, I think his name was Sal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he helped graffiti the place or did it. But most of the guys that were there, they did their artwork. The place was badass. It was jam-packed. You know what I'm saying? It was like storybook.
Okay.
My dad was going to buy the building, so he decided he would close it up and let us borrow it for breakdancing. He never bought it. They condemned it afterwards, but while it was still there, we used it we did just like they did on B Street. We grabbed the line and brought it out the window to the pole, and they had electricity.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And then that electricity that fueled the DJ equipment.
Wow.
And the place probably only had 150 capacity, but there'd be so many people in there, the floors would buckle.
Now let me ask
dancing, you know what I'm saying? Shit, woo,
Do you have any pictures from that place at all anywhere?
I wish we did.
Okay.
The only thing that I can say is that anytime I tell a story, thank God there's still people out there in internet land that remember that shit and they'll vouch for me on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Popo's out there.
Marty says
he's out there. Marty Cruz is out there.
Marty say he remember.
Yeah, hey, they remember that shit, man. That was some exciting shit, And the same went for like when I would bring those West Side guys to Bridgeport. We would go to a school over by Canal Street in like 28th. I think it was called Ward School, and we had battles in their playground. And at that moment, people would start bringing crews from all over just to battle.
Mm-hmm.
They knew there was a battle going on, and these guys are battling your brother or your cousin. You would go get somebody from school who you thought was a bad motherfucker. You would bring him to the battle.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it was a literal battle. It wasn't
Yeah.
just a bunch of guys all dancing to see who was the best. It was one crew trying to outdo another crew.
Right.
Or two crews against one crew, or or three crews on three crews. But there were alliances. There were alliances. It was a lot like gangs. It just wasn't. There were no violence involved. It's a whole lot of working out.
Minette says, Carlos, rest in peace, DTR. Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of guys that passed. Like I said, like one of my, a guy that was pretty good. He was on Freeze crew called Javi.
Okay.
Eventually, his name was Javi B. He passed away. I knew him. He was a good friend. He was really good.
Okay.
He's in that hip hop video from El Palomo show that was posted on Facebook.
Okay.
He was the guy on the far right.
Okay.
And then the guy on the far left, and then Dave Freeze in the middle. He's good, the pop locker.
Right.
But like I wish I think what happens a lot of times is a lot of kids didn't travel.
Mm-hmm.
I made it a point to travel all the time. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
you've seen so much talent. You would see some shit in Motown that you would not see on the West Side. It was, or vice versa. They had a lot of good crews, man. A lot of good crews. They had people at Maxwell Street flea market on Sunday. There was youth around that area. We battle them. They were good as fuck. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was a lot of good break dancers, man.
Yeah. And what high school did you say you went to?
At the time when breakdancing came out, I was an 8th grader.
Okay.
By the time I made it to freshman year, I was kind of late when it came to graduating. It was 1985, and by then, I tried tagging. I met a few taggers in Benito Juarez High School. They used to take me over to the factories on 16th and Morgan.
Okay.
And there were some tagging crews. They were like tagging crews, but they were also gang affiliated. Some of them were Racine boys, Morgan boys. They were from the Pilsen area. And during lunch, they would tell me, "Hey, man," they see my gym bag and it had graffiti on there that I would do with my my markers and shit. And they'd be like, "Hey, you like graffiti?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I like this shit, man. I tag Flexster." You know what I'm saying? They're like, "How would you like to go see some nice pieces we did?" So they took me to these factories. They were on 16th and Peoria, 16th and Morgan.
Okay.
And they were showing me these really nice pieces they did. It was like they were like abandoned factories.
Wow.
And then shortly after that, I got into gangs and hip hop. Really, I just, when it came to tagging in particular, because that's all that was left, that and DJing.
Right.
I was always into females. So like taggers at the time were pretty low key. They were mostly youth who didn't want to join gangs. And a lot of times they evaded being drafted. Like some of my friends from Little Village had a hard time. They'd have to evade that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they stayed writing though. They stayed hip hop and they avoided a whole lot of shit. They didn't end up in prison, or for the most part, they ended up better off than they would have if they would have fell into the temptation of the streets.
Right. That's what's up. That's what's up. Well, listen, man, this has been a great episode here with you tonight. I appreciate all the gems you shared.
Likewise.
And, I look forward to seeing you come down and visit us at the museum. If you ever come across any artifacts that you'd like to donate to the museum, we'd be more than happy to accept them.
Okay. And I would encourage you, if you have any further interviews, check out somebody like Salsky from BTB.
Yeah.
He has a lot of history.
Yeah.
And someone like David Freeze.
Yes.
Or Pops from the Hypnotic Rockers. These are guys who could probably still perform for you if you needed them to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, who is this checking in right here, Brother Flex? He made a comment here.
Salvador, that's Salsky from BTB.
This is Salsky?
Yes, sir.
Salsky, hold on, wait a minute. Salsky, what's up, my brother? I've been trying to catch you for a while now. We got to connect.
He's a true historian.
Yeah, hey man, send me your information in my inbox. I'll reach out to you as well. But yeah, I've been trying. I didn't even know he was on Facebook.
Hypnotic History on the West Side. He enlightened me on what happened before I got there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
he was there even before there, and he's as thorough hip hop as you'll find him.
Oh yeah, I already know. I already know.
That's my guy Salsky, man. Love you, Sal.
Yeah, Brother Sowski. I didn't even know that was him.
Much love to Little Village, man, to the West Side. Woo.
That's what's up.
See,
that's what happens when you have a discussion like this. You bring out people out of the woodwork.
Yeah, they're watching. You know, they come out the paperwork quick.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, listen. Any concluding words before we go? Any words of advice? Any up and coming dancers?
Well, all I say is I hope to see more of it now that it's going to be in the Olympics. And I encourage people in the community to invest in like dance halls or spaces for dance, because there's nothing but good in it. It'll always be here. And, you know, with all that, I just thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Darrell. I appreciate being here.
Yes, sir. Okay,
all
man.
right.
We'll be in touch sooner than later.
Okay.
And we'll be back here again next Friday at 8 o'clock with another fresh episode of Rep Your City Fresh Fridays. But until then, everybody, thank you for tuning in and watching and showing love and support. Don't forget to rep your city. My name is Artistic, and we're out. Peace.